M. Night Shyamalan is a very famous name in Hollywood. Some people love him, some people hate him, some people are very mixed on him, and I'm one of the people that loves a lot of his movies, but if you told me you hate a lot of them, I would completely understand. He definitely has some stinkers in his filmography. But today we're talking about Ishana Shyamalan, his daughter, who is directing her first film called The Watchers, a movie that I was very interested in because it kind of gave me vibes of The Village and Lady in the Water, which is not everyone's cup of tea. But I was interested to see if she can pull off that dynamic. And I'm here to tell you that overall the film might be a mixed bag, but it's a mixed bag that makes me interested to see what she does next, because I still enjoyed the film just enough to say, yeah, this is a solid watch. What's going on, buddy? Welcome back to a brand new movie review. My name is Zach, and today, again, we are talking about The Watchers. This is about a young artist who gets stranded in an extensive, immaculate forest in Western Ireland, where after finding shelter, she becomes trapped alongside three strangers and stalked by mysterious creatures each night. Now, this stars Dakota Fanning, Georgina Campbell, Olwen Fouere, and Olwen Finnegan. Now, I have been pretty excited for this. I can't say it's been one of my most anticipated for the year, but I'm excited and interested. And after watching it, again, I'm excited to see for the future of what Shyamalan's daughter now can do, because I think what this pulls off is what I mentioned off the top. It has a little bit of The Village, and has a little bit of Lady in the Water, and it also has a little bit of its own flair and a nice twist on a familiar creature that I don't want to spoil if you don't know what it is going into, but I don't think we get enough of kind of like creature features on that particular thing. So excited to see how they were able to play off that. And again, coming out of The Watchers, while I felt more like a mixed bag, specifically some of the stuff that happens in the third act, I overall felt satisfied. And I felt like, yeah, we don't get creature features like this a lot. And when we do, I think we kind of need to like love on them just a tad bit. One of the films that really came to my mind while watching this was The Ritual, a very unique movie on Netflix, which I found that a lot of people were very mixed on, but when I went and watched it, I was like, this is a very cool movie because, again, the creature. When it comes down to horror films, I have a very soft spot for two things. One, Shyamalan horror movies, and two, creature features, and you kind of get a mix of the both of those. So I'm excited to talk about The Watchers today. I definitely want to hear your guys' thoughts down below in the comment section, so leave your thoughts down there, hit that like and subscribe button, and without further ado, let's dive into the pros. And one of the things I want to first off mention is how damn good Dakota Fanning is in here. I feel like we talk about Eli Fanning a lot, like that's all we talk about, and she's in so much. But Dakota Fanning, for like a long time in Hollywood, like that was the Fanning sister that we were always looking after, and I thought she was phenomenal in this. And she really rises above a very shallow and blunt script when it comes down to character work, but I think she really brought a lot of believability. And there's certain things in the script that add a meta-ness to the creatures and the situation that they're in that I'll talk about a little bit more in a second. But her character itself is able to play onto that meta-ness, and I think her performance really elevates a lot of those parallels that we see throughout the movie. Alongside, I think the rest of the cast is pretty good. Campbell, Olwen, and Oliver, I think they all, again, do a good job in the role, but they just don't get enough of a dynamic here. This really is Dakota Fanning's vehicle to give and show her work, but also it's Ishana Shyamalan's directorial debut that really is the star here. Whether it's from some of the immaculate shots that she catches inside this forest, there's one that's ingrained in my mind, and it comes from them looking from the point of view of actually looking at the building of the Watchers, of like where they're in, and you see this shadowy figure kind of get up in front of it. It gave me goosebumps, and I really liked that moment. Again, got under my skin, and when a film can get under my skin and make me keep thinking about that moment and then thinking about that on the drive home, I thank God that I live in Phoenix, Arizona, not in the middle of nowhere, because I would have probably died on my way home and been completely terrified. I think that's one of the things this film reminds you of, why a forest can be so terrifying, and one of the reasons that the original Blair Witch made people afraid of the forest. That kind of parallels again to what Spielberg did with beaches when it came down to Jaws and so many other, again, creature features. I love that, because you never know due to the fear of the unknown. Again, Shyamalan's direction here is great. I thought it was fantastic, from all the shots to, again, some of the sound design and some of the cuts that they did with the editing. I think it led on to some really great territory, even if some of it feels a little bit familiar. The whole concept of them being stuck in this building and, again, can only leave during the day, but when they try to leave, they just get lost in the forest and they have to find their way back. But these creatures just watch them through this one glass that they can't see out there, but they can see them. That's terrifying to me. And to touch on the creatures a little bit, I was really happy with the mythology that they built up over them overall. I have one small issue with it, which I'll talk about in my cons, but it has nothing to be with what they explained. And I was happy about that, because this is one of those films that when you're watching it the first 2 acts, you're like, all right, I need some answers. Give me these answers and I'll see if I'm satisfied. That's going to be different for every single person out there, but luckily I was satisfied with the answers. I can't speak that for everyone, but I did like what they built up in the mythology, what they built up the characters, and it kind of, again, feels very folky and fairy tale-ish. And I think that's awesome that they went in that route. You really don't see a lot of films go down in those moments in touching into creatures and really much the amount of detail that they actually give to them. Loved what Ishana did here. And again, I might be mispronouncing her name, so I do apologize if I am. I'm trying my best. Watchers really reminded me of an early 2000s horror film with a creature. It was one of the things that kind of made me excited about the movie, specifically from the start all the way up until almost the third act. And when I'm saying that is, this is a film that when it's on budget, I would probably buy it on Blu-ray, and I would pop it in here and there to kind of go back and reminisce of my time with this, because I enjoy films like that. But I did say off the top that this was a mixed bag overall. And the reason it is a mixed bag is because for everything that I loved about the movie, there was some things really holding it back. And one thing I've already mentioned is the script. A lot of the characters do not get a lot of character work, and I actually wouldn't have minded if this film was a tad bit longer to touch on characters, or instead of focusing a little bit too much on the mythology, which I'm about to mention as well, focus in on some more character work there. Everyone is very generic, to say the least. And then to jump into the mythology part that I've been hinting about, as much as I love all the stuff that they explained, they went a little bit too overboard with the explaining. And I knew this was a problem the second they are running. I shit you not, they are in the middle of trying to escape this situation that they are in. And they don't have much time. And they stop to look at something on the ground, and one of the characters over-explains what this is. Which then, that moment in particular, I feel gives away a certain twist, or I don't even know if it would be called a twist, but something towards the ending which you kind of got a feeling about, but it was even more definitive at that very moment. And I'm like, why did you just do that? That moment was not needed and could have easily been cut out, and again, readjusted to give more time towards the actual characters, because I didn't care about any of the characters besides Dakota Fanning's. And that also jumps into another issue of mine where I just didn't feel the intensity in the entire third act. Once that moment hit, it kind of slapped me in the face, and I went, oh man, this is something. Now all the intensity's gone, and what's insane to me is when it actually feels like it's going to end, the film keeps going. And I was interested. I was like, where is this going? Yeah, there's a couple loose threads that you can maybe tie up, but do I need to know that? And they again continue to over-explain everything to the point where they show something that you kind of assumed was going to happen, and it again goes on and on from there again, giving us 3 different ways that it could have ended, and then it finally ends, and I was like, okay, I liked it, but it's a mixed bag. If you told me you didn't, yeah, I fucking get it, because as a directorial debut, I think overall, it is a very nice directorial debut. It's one that I will be looking forward to whatever she does next. But in terms of script, there was a lot that could have been fixed in the editing room, in my opinion. And maybe even if you would cut out a little bit, and we still didn't get the characters, I still would have been down for the story. There's just obvious cuts and obvious things that I would have made to certain pieces of the third act to really make this ramp up. Because the first act starts decent. I'm like, okay, I'm into this. Then the second act goes, and I'm like, I'm really enjoying this. This is very unique, but this is all going to come down to that ending. What is the ending here? Are you going to give me my answers? And you gave me my answers, but you gave me too many. You built on the mythology just a tad bit more, where I felt like there was a sweet spot where you gave me just enough and I didn't need to know shit anymore. I was good. You continue with this creature feature and just give me an entertaining third act. And the third act really just runs into the ground just a hair, and specifically in the way that it stops and then it keeps going. And then it stops and it keeps going into a very predictable territory, which I think some people will like, some people will not. And I can see a lot of people either really enjoying The Watchers or hating it overall. So again, a mixed bag, but one that I enjoyed. And I think that's what it comes down to, like watching films, is sometimes we do watch these films and we can look at the bad, but also look at the good and go, I can see what she was trying to do. Can't wait to see what she does next. This is a lot of M. Night Shyamalan films, and I can see that her daughter definitely takes after her father at times. One pro that I actually forgot to mention was some of the parallels and meta-ness. I actually really liked some of the ideas that they actually did, starting off with like Dakota Fanning's character and something that she does with the wig, and then what it actually pertains to with some of the creatures. Very, very unique stuff, and I could really dive into a bunch of spoilers when it comes down to the parallels, but it was very fascinating to way that they touched on the watching and like how us as a society watches certain things from a different point of view. Again, I can't get into that more because if it's a spoiler, but I did like the parallels to that. I think it was actually one of the smartest things about that all. Which reminds me of a lot of stuff from M. Night Shyamalan's career, whether it's The Village and Lady in the Water, which I know are two very films that I know a lot of people hate Lady in the Water, and for good reason. I don't hate it, but I get it. And same thing with The Village. Like, a lot of people hate that movie, but also it has a fan base. And I felt like The Watchers was kind of all of that with its own sense and style with a different type of creature in it. And again, very, very like that. So overall, I'm excited to see more from Ishana Night Shyamalan. After seeing The Watchers, a unique folk horror with a fun twist on a familiar creature, Ishana reminds me of why a forest is one of the scariest places to be stuck in. My only big issue is really much the third act, which over-explains everything. And that was the one piece of me that just went, it's breaking my heart. Like, there was a sweet spot and it just kept going and I didn't think it needed to. But again, excited for the future. Definitely leave your thoughts down below. And without further ado, I'm going to give The Watchers a C+. So depending on your mood this week, you got Bad Boys, The Watchers. I think both are solid picks. Bad Boys is probably the safer option, but if you are someone who is a fan of creature features and wants to see something new from someone from the Shyamalan family, it's really hard for me not to say don't go see The Watchers, because I think unique horror films like this do deserve a chance in theaters. So again, thank you so much again for watching this. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and of course, until next time, stay classy.